Hi, my name is Leigh Lubin, and we're going to talk about mindfulness and meditation today. So, in order to learn a little bit about mindfulness, you can go ahead and pause this and go and get yourself a raisin, a dried fruit, a cracker, anything of the sort, and come on back. So, what we're going to do is we're going to practice mindfulness with this. So, whatever you grabbed, go ahead and look at it. Look at it as if you have never seen it before, like it was from Mars. And notice if it's the same color throughout, if it's a symmetrical shape or it's asymmetrical. What are all the things you can notice about this itty bitty teeny raisin? Go ahead, or whatever you're holding, and go ahead and put whatever you have in your hand. And when you hold it, can you actually feel its weight? Can you feel where it is in your hand? What part of your hand it's touching? For me, it's actually quite hard for the feeling part. When we go back to touching and you kind of roll it in between your fingers, you might notice if it's smooth or soft or hard. You may look at it and feel it, noticing if there's ridges and valleys and if they're the same. Can you feel the pokey part that was the stem from the grape? Then go ahead and put it up to your ear and roll it back and forth. Do you hear anything? The first time I did this, I was so surprised about the snap, crackle, pop of the raisin. And can you smell it? It's actually quite hard for me to smell just one raisin. But maybe you have a better sense of smell, or maybe a stronger smelling raisin. And the next thing you'll do is you'll begin to eat it. But do this really slowly and with consciousness. So slowly put it up to your lips. Feel it touching your lips and your fingers at the same time. Notice if your body has any reactions. Do you start to salivate more? Does your tummy grumble? Are you kind of grossed out? Do you have any thoughts about it? And then eventually place it in your mouth. When you place it in your mouth, where does it naturally go? Is it on the tip of your tongue, at the back of your mouth, on the one side or the other? Hold it in your mouth for a second. And as you're about to go ahead and chew, notice how the tongue moves and where the raisin gets pushed to in your mouth, which teeth start to do the work. Chewing and noticing what you can feel, what you can hear. Noticing the texture of the raisin when it's time to swallow. How does your tongue move? When you are complete, all of us will take a different amount of time, then you have just done a mindfulness activity. So mindfulness is nothing different than extraordinary attention to what we're doing. So we can be mindful when we're doing dishes and feeling the water on our hands and listening to the sounds of the bubbles pop. Or we can be thinking about all the things that happened that day or whatever is supposed to happen tomorrow, or a whole range of where our mind will go. It's not just your mind. Everyone's minds wander. That's part of its job, is to wander. So why mindfulness matters is because brings us into present. And if we're not present, then we can sometimes miss life and miss what's important to us. Like when 20 years have gone by and we can't remember a single thing because we've just been caught up in thinking about what we did before, what has to go next with the checklist, and trying to multitask all of the time. So one of the reasons to invite mindfulness into our life is so that we don't miss life, so that we're there for the joys. We will also need to be there for the sorrows and the hard parts, but mindfulness helps us participate in our life. It also creates an anchor for the mind. So it teaches the mind to come back from monkey mind. So when we practice mindfulness, maybe we decide that for 2 minutes of washing dishes, we're really going to feel the temperature of the water and focus on the dishes. It is a training for our mind, just like we go to the gym to train our muscles. Mindfulness trains our mind to be more focused, so that when we want to have a focused mind, we have a chance. Many of us have a hard time if we're trying to sleep, our mind is jumping around, or we get distracted when we're doing something and have a hard time really staying with what's currently going on. One of the other benefits is mindfulness is that we tend to notice when we're off more before something external happens. When we're mindful, we might notice how our body feels, that we're starting to get our blood pressure up and there's starting to be a little rumble in the belly, or something that means that we might be getting agitated. And we can notice that with mindfulness before we do or say something that is actually agitated. So hopefully with mindfulness, we can realize what's going on for us and eventually learn tools to help us stay in a way that is positive for both us and for those around us. So what meditation is simply extraordinary attention to what's going on in the mind. So mindfulness and meditation are basically the same thing. They're just applied to different arenas. Meditation is a form of mindfulness, but mindfulness can exist when we're walking, when we're driving, anytime we choose to be 100% present or attempt to be 100% present with what we're doing and where we are and what's going on around us. So what meditation does is it helps us focus the mind, just like mindfulness, and it helps us increase our internal awareness so we can tell what's going on. Lots of times people come to meditation or mindfulness and they simply come up with the I can't, my mind does not shut up, it's too hard for me. And what we need to remember is that the purpose of meditation or mindfulness isn't to be completely blank in the head. It's not to quiet all of the thoughts and to be have nothing else coming into the mind. The point of meditation is like a training session. So when the mind wanders, we bring it back. When the mind wanders, we bring it back. So every time that the mind wanders, it's like us lifting a weight and doing like a calm muscle meditation or exercise, so that when our mind wanders and we don't want it to, and we get stuck thinking about something in the past or the future or a conversation that has or has not happened, we can turn that off. We can say, okay, that's enough, and we can go on. I like to think of it as training a little puppy. So if there was a puppy and it kept running away, each time you called it back, you would not be that upset because it's a puppy and it's cute. So if you think of training your mind just like training a puppy to come back, then we can have a little bit more gentleness with it. And the purpose of training a puppy is so that when the dog is fully grown, that we have a dog that is able to sit down and chill with us when we get to a lake and a beautiful vista and we want to check it out, that the dog doesn't need to play fetch nonstop, or the dog doesn't need to bark at us the whole time that we're resting. And then again, when we get up to go, the dog's ready to get up and go. So what we want is a mind that can sit with us when we want to be quiet, and to get up and go when we want our mind to be active. There is no reason that your mind needs to always be calm. There are times where it's either fun or appropriate to get kind of worked up. But what we want to have the ability to do is to be calm when we want to. So reasons to practice meditation are that it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. It helps prevent brain aging, and it increases the density in the parts of our brain that increase learning, memory, emotion, regulation, and consciousness centers. And it decreases the density in the amygdala in the brainstem that's responsible for fear, anxiety, and stress. So we end up decreasing the density in our brain of the biological area of the monkey mind, the part that won't shut up, and we increase parts that help us move through our lives with grace and with calmness. So we basically are training the mind to fall into a pattern. One of the neuroscience sayings is neurons that fire together wire together. So by practicing keeping our mind in a calm state and keeping it out of the monkey mind, then it becomes easier and easier over time. So for me personally, meditation used to be a little bit challenging to tap into. And now my body and my mind go there quite quickly because it's been trained about what's to do and what's going to happen. So this gets easier with time. Reasons that you would not want to practice meditation. I know that it is mentioned that meditation is this wonderful cure-all that does great things, which it does. But there are cases when meditation might not be great for you, especially without a trained mental health professional nearby. So those would be if you have severe PTSD, severe trauma, or mental disorders. And that's because what happens when we meditate is the mind becomes clear, and sometimes you've probably heard that's compared to a calm body of water. And when the body of water is calm, you can see all the reflections of the beautiful mountains and everything around. And that's great. But what is not often mentioned is that when the lake is calm and you peer over and look inside, all of a sudden you can see to the bottom and you can see all the used tires and trash and junk cars and all this yucky stuff that is in there. And so if we have some severe PTSD or trauma or mental illness, sometimes we just need some guidance in being able to look at what we see with clarity when we look inside of the lake as opposed to looking at the reflection. If at any time during meditation you get visuals or anything uncomfortable, go ahead and open the eyes or close them if they were open, or stop. There's nothing beneficial about fighting through something that's really, really uncomfortable and feels really unsafe. We want this practice to be something that we look forward to and that we feel safe and comfortable in. So if something feels uncomfortable, switch to mindfulness or switch to some other form of meditation or something that's a little less intense or not quite as long. So I always say that you're doing the practice well if the mind is clearer if the mind is clearer after you practice than before. So if you decide to do a meditation and you practice it a couple times and each time you do it you feel more agitated, more out of your body, more uncomfortable with yourself or those around you, then maybe that meditation isn't for you now, or maybe it isn't for you ever. It's not necessarily something that is okay for everyone to do the exact same. And so I want to be sure that you know that if it doesn't help you, it might not be serving you now. You might need more guidance, you might just need more time. That particular practice might never serve you. Fortunately, there's a million ways to meditate, and there are also endless ways to be mindful. You can set a timer on your phone that for 1 minute every hour, you are very mindful of what's going on. Something to also note about meditation is that when we're in a completely agitated state and we're really upset, it is not the appropriate time to try to just sit and breathe, or sit and meditate until that becomes a really comfortable skill for us. We're practicing meditation and mindfulness so that we don't get as agitated or upset, so that it takes us longer to get into that state. But trying to take ourselves from being very, very upset or very worked up right into meditation is for experienced meditators and not something that we should expect from ourselves as beginners or even as intermediates. So when we're in an agitated state, we aren't using our meditation in that moment. First, we might have to do some movement or some mindfulness or calm down. Our meditation and our mindfulness activities are meant to help us not get into those agitated, upset, stressful states as easily. Once we're there, we need to often use different techniques to calm down. And so those are reasons that you wouldn't practice. The technique, I kind of mentioned there's millions of ways to meditate. The technique is, there can be things like a walking meditation, watching the breath, mantras, visuals, watching the mind, watching sensations, finding the quietest spot in the mind and sitting there. There are many, many different techniques. And the technique is used to help you learn to quiet the mind. It's like the weightlifting. It's like the weights that you're using to calm the mind. And what's important is that at some point in each practice, we let the technique go. So if I've been focusing on my breath, at some point, I let myself not focus on the breath and simply be and notice what comes up. And maybe I can sit comfortably in peace. Maybe my mind is quiet, maybe it's thinking, but either way I'm not reacting to and I'm watching. Or maybe it goes crazy and we need to go back to our technique. But silence is the most important part of our meditation. We let our technique go so that at some point we can see what it's doing. There are many different postures to sit in or to be in for meditation, and the most important thing is that the spine is long and supported. So you can sit, if you're sitting on the ground, I'm sitting on a block right now. I almost always sit on something when I'm sitting in meditation because lifting up the hips makes it easier to keep the spine long. If I'm sitting in a chair, I sit right on the edge and use a pillow behind so that I'm sitting on the edge of the chair and I'm not slumped in with my back against the chair and my back rounded. If you're going to lie down, then you can lie on some blankets or anything so that you're at like a 30 to 60 degree angle. You want your forehead higher than your chin. So a lot of times I might put an extra pillow behind my head. And the reason that you don't want to lie all the way down is because you might just fall asleep, unless that's what you're going for. So I think that is the basics of mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is simply extraordinary attention to whatever is going on. You can practice that at any time. And the more you practice it, the better you get. Knowing that when you try to start practicing mindfulness, you'll notice first how much your mind jumps around. Don't be discouraged. Remember, this is the process. And each time you have to bring your mind back or come back into present, it's lifting up the weight for the calm muscle. Meditation is just extraordinary attention to what's going on in the mind. So you have lots of different ways to practice. I'll present 2 or 3. You'll get some options to choose from. And please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. My name is Leigh Lubin, and it's yogacurrents.com. I'm an experienced registered yoga teacher, and I really love helping people find their greatest self. Thanks so much.